and welcome back to F1 2019 with CLF, driving for Team Haas. That's me, Dave Nichols, and we're diving into China, straight into practice, but we're not going to be showing too much of it. So before we dive into a practice session number 1, let's have a quick look at the messages from the team and from Emma. I'm sure there we go, goals update. So she's giving us a completion reward bonus, which is very nice of her if we achieve it. Carl is telling us that Hamilton and Vettel are leading the lines. We've had some completed developments, which is very nice. Spark plug, central under tray and the general maintenance developments all completed on time. And the weather forecast suggests sunny, cloud and a little bit of rain. So if we go and have a look at the R&D, then we're getting it along pretty nicely. Durability still got a poor morale, but everybody else is back to normal, which is great. And we go and look in. So these are all the upgrades that we've completed. It's just letting us know that they're done and dusted, and we can go in and do a few more if so be. And I think we're going to dive into the aerodynamics, if I remember correctly, and we go for all aerodynamic upgrades. So we could do the front downforce. Now, the key for developing aerodynamics is that the next race after China is Baku, which is a street circuit, and you need a lot of downforce. You need to be tight through the corners and hoping to keep enough pace as possible. So we're going to go for the halo to increase the rear downforce and the front downforce. We're just having a look through here about how much it all is. So you can see we do the front downforce and we do the rear downforce with the halo. And then we go for, I think we go for the wind tunnel quality control and the reliability, if I remember, or the efficiency, sorry. Yeah, we do go for both because we've got enough points, so we spend a hell of a lot of points, leaving us only with 4 resource points left. But yeah, it's all developments we need to improve on and increase on and get sorted. As we have a quick look at the contract, then we're going to rivals, and I said we're going to select a new rival.
Here you can see a list of eligible drivers to declare as your rival. The more challenging they are to beat, the more the paddock will respect you for succeeding. Just be aware, you'll lose the same amount of respect if you come off second best. So it may be wise not to be overly ambitious.
So as Emma says, we have a choice of rivals. It's obviously going to be Lucas Weber because he was our GP2 teammate, or F2, not GP2, F2 teammate, and we'll get him on. And here is our quick overview. Total points 18, average finish is 5th at the moment, and average grid position is 6th. Can we keep that up going into China? Let's find out with practice session number 1.
Welcome to Shanghai for this weekend's Chinese Grand Prix. We begin with today's practice session.
We're going to be logging some extra data during this session. Nothing you need to worry about, but as we have some new parts, we'll just confirm they're performing to spec.
Time to remind ourselves of our top 3, who are Bottas, Vettel and Wang. What an incredible practice session. The fun doesn't stop here though. Join us again as the rest of the weekend unfolds.
So a very good performance in practice session 1. Jeff giving us a bit of that weather again. Finishing 3rd quickest, and China is a course I generally don't like, but obviously in practice session there's a lot of people using medium tyres.
Welcome to Shanghai, China, for what I've no doubt is going to be a fantastic F1 qualifying session. I was looking at some highlights of previous races here, and the one thing that really stood out to me was the run down to turn 1. It's not an easy one to navigate as everyone is scrapping to get into their first.
We've seen in the past how tricky the first corner is. It's not an issue in practice and qualifying, but if you throw a lot of highly competitive drivers at it all at once, you've got an entirely different situation. The smarter drivers will be able to temper their approach and stay out of trouble, but it doesn't mean it's easy.
So there was a bit of warning there about turn 1, and you're going to see why. If you don't know what China's like, then this is turn 1. You have to just sort of stay on the throttle whilst dropping down the gears. It's very complicated. As Crofty said, going through it on your own is fine. When there's other race drivers around, it's very, very complicated. As this is where we see the other cars get their acceleration on us and really step off the mark. And at the moment it's Vettel in place number 1 in P1 as we take that corner quite well out of 2nd gear, and they get their foot on the floor a little bit quicker than us, but so far so good through the Chinese qualifying lap, and we'll have to see if we can keep this up. There's lots of corners where you just have to drop the gears and ease off the pressure, and as you can see we take that one a bit too fast and lose a bit of time on Hamilton, who's now gone into P1 as we take a nice left-hander, just running on either of the curves, cutting round and then getting the foot to the floor again. As we come back round, and Hamilton just goes off right into the distance as we do a hard braking zone, dropping all the way down into 2nd gear, back on the power, up to 3rd, off the power as you come round, and then a long sweeping downhill run, which is so annoying during the race, as you're going to find out as we come through. And I have to admit, China is not a track I like. At the moment, as we cross the DRS line, we find ourselves in 13th position, as it says in the top left in terms of qualifying. But we're coming down a hard right-hand turn again, all the way down to second. That's 8th to second in a matter of seconds down there. As we're now up into 10th position with that corner, up into 9th. As we come into the final corner, just cut across the curve, take the bollard out, and it's not over the track limits. Back on the DRS, into the home straight. Hamilton gets P1, and we get
Good work.
P9, which isn't too bad at all in the Haas. A track I really don't like. Can we hold on to that for the race?
And with qualifying complete, let's review our top 3 today. Hamilton, Vettel and Charles Leclerc. Goodbye for now then, but we're really just getting started. Make sure to join us again for Lights Out tomorrow.
So not a bad performance in qualifying. We out-qualified both our rivals, which is lovely, lovely stuff, as you can see. So we get a bit of respect if we beat Grosjean as our teammate. We get a little bit of respect and a 10% bonus if we beat Lucas Weber. And at the moment, we're beating Weber 2-1, and we're beating Grosjean 14-7, because we scored generally higher point finishing positions in every single race so far. I think so far we've actually scored points in every race that we've entered. So can we keep that up in China? We'll have to find out. Let's get back to the workstation and see what Emma's got to say.
It's time to find out which driver is up to the task of claiming the Chinese Grand Prix. We're here in Shanghai. We start a lap here at Shanghai with the long, difficult right-handers of turns 1 and 2, the first of 16 corners that make up this 3.3-mile circuit. The incredibly long back straight provides the best passing opportunity of the lap, with speeds in excess of 200 miles per hour before the braking zone of turn 14. Alongside me to discuss all the action today is Anthony Davidson. Thanks for joining us, Ant, and tell me, you were down in the pit lane earlier. How do you think the track conditions are today?
Well, the surface looks clean enough, but I'm a little bit worried about the track temperature. It's pretty cool out there, which could give some teams difficulties when it comes to keeping their tyres in the right operating window. The cars out there that work their tyres hard and really put a lot of energy through them, they'll be the ones that are better off.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. An immense lap from Lewis Hamilton yesterday puts him on pole position, with Sebastian Vettel starting alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Gasly, Valtteri Bottas and Verstappen, Perez, Butler, Wang and Lucas Weber, Sainz, Grosjean, Kimi Raikkonen and Ricciardo, Russell, Kvyat, Lando Norris and Alexander Albon, Kubica and Antonio Giovinazzi starts from the back of the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
So a nice little message there from the engineer just before we get underway. And we're waiting for 5 red lights, and it's going to be absolute carnage at the first corner. Just you wait for it, as it's really a short time to wait as we get underway, and straight away got 2 cars coming up our insides, and it's Lando Norris, I think, but straight into the first corner. We are on the outside, which isn't the best. We go right up behind the McLaren, have to drop down those gears, and you can look at this, it's like a car park out there as the Haas comes through. We've got a Williams in front of us now, and Ricciardo's got in front of us, and we dropped all the way down to 15th because we were placed on the outside for that first bend. But we're coming up, and we know there's a long straight, and you've got to really get on the brakes. Ricciardo goes for a dive bomb, we follow him, and actually we go on the brakes later and jump in, avoiding all contact as well, and we find ourselves back up into P9, which is absolutely incredible. Lots of cars behind us fighting for position, including Devon Butler's in front. We've got Lucas Weber behind us and Ricciardo, and we're in the sort of Renault sandwich at the moment. Butler in front and Ricciardo in behind. But if we can keep this position, I'd be very happy on a course like China, as we're chasing down Devon Butler. And Ricciardo's right hot on our tail. We're just messing around with our ERS deployment, and that forces us to go a little bit wide as I forget to go on the braking line, and Ricciardo sees his opportunity and takes back P9. We're trying to look down the inside. He comes across to defend, and defend us very well he does, as we get down 4th, 5th into the huge straight.
Through the start phase. Now let's build on it.
As we look to get up to over 300 kilometres an hour, going into rich and hot lap ERS trying to get the most pace we can. Ricciardo sees us coming, goes to defend, doesn't defend enough. We dive down the inside and get in between him and Devon Butler once again. Forced a bit wide, but have enough about us just to keep that track away from Ricciardo as we come through. Now we're going, dropping the ERS down, trying to save a bit of energy. Cut that corner as we know we can, as Hamilton sets the fastest lap leading from the front.
We're approaching the pit window. You'll be on the mediums.
And we'll be changing to the medium tyres in the space of a couple of laps as we go round the outside. Ricciardo hot on our tails. We actually leave a bit of space for him. Is he going to get past? We shut that one off, but he gets on the power just to come round us, and it looks like Ricciardo's back up into P9, dropping us down to 10th position, and Grosjean isn't hanging around either, right behind us. We're actually now trying to get the slipstream. Grosjean knows to make a move. We're trying to defend the inside line against our teammate. We come through the corner and Grosjean's got the power down before us.
Power from the engine is going to be down slightly and showing some minor wear.
And that is not what you want to hear just as you lose a points-giving position, that our engine may be losing some power through a bit of wear and tear. Something we'll have to look at after the race before the one at Baku. Although Baku is not an engine-intensive course because it's a street circuit. It does have long straights though, so we may have to look to replace part of the engine for the race against Baku, as Ricciardo and Grosjean now look to be really getting away from us, even though we do set a quickest Sector 1 and Sector 2 time. As we come around the corner, the big bendy downhill corner into the long backhill straight, you really build up the space, the pace as you come down. And now Lucas Weber is trying to stay with us, but it looks like whilst we're losing ground on Grosjean, we are keeping Weber at a bit of pace as he's starting to come up behind us now. We get the two arrows to warn us. He goes down the inside, but decides against it because he runs out of space. We take the corner very well, and Grosjean nearly got in front of Ricciardo, but just loses out, and it sticks with Ricciardo. As Hamilton sets a new fastest lap, we take that corner very well, and I can tell you now that later in the video, that corner gets worse and worse.
Race officials have enabled DRS. DRS is now available.
So we go into the long snail sort of right-hander where you really have to control the gears. As you can see, we actually make up some time, but then we don't have the track position to get on the power, and Ricciardo and Grosjean can get away from us a little bit as we now get the power down, but it's a bit too late and we can't catch Ricciardo and Grosjean. The Australian and the Frenchman doing very well in front of us, but these short gear corners, we have to drop down the gears into really low gears, but we jump to entering the pits, and it's only us, and I think, is it Devon Butler, I think, is coming at the same time. He has, there he goes in his Renault. So we're both on a similar tactic, us and Devon Butler, as we have a good stop. We come out, and we're not going to be too far behind the train, I think, as we get a good pit exit. Obviously no traffic jam in the pits when you pit slightly earlier than everybody else.
Okay, stay clear of the white line on the exit. We'll receive a penalty for dangerous driving if you cross over into the track. Yeah,
so we come out in 20th, Devon Butler in 19th, but we know we've both got, we're a pit stop up on everybody else. Lap 5 of 14 completed, or this is lap 5, sorry, of 14, as we get on the pedal. And we'll probably, I think we skip this lap because there's literally not much going on. I think we see a little bit of it, and then we'll skip to a later lap in the race where we've caught some other people up, because the lap out of the pits when you pit early is pretty boring. There's nobody around you and you've just got to go round the course.
Okay, we're monitoring some wear on the ICE. Be aware that we will start to see a loss of power.
So the ICE obviously having a bit of effect as well, which is not, again, not what you want to hear on a course that allows you to get your foot to the floor and go at quite high speeds. As we are actually taking this quite well. You can see in front of us there is Devon Butler, so we're not too far.
We're at +1 lap of extra fuel. Fuel target +1.
Not too far off Devon Butler, as Jeff tells us that we have a bit of extra fuel in the tank, so I'm sure we'll engage that as we get into this back straight and get into rich mix mode. As we come down 6, there we go, changing it up to rich mix, and Grosjean has jumped into the pits, as Jeff just tells us there. And we're getting our speed up. Now, can we get past Grosjean while he's in the pits? Everything's not looking too bad. Tyre wear isn't too bad with the new tyres on. The ICE, the front wing are all looking okay. Nothing over temperature so far. I mean, we're hitting the engine at its peak. About 125, I think, is when performance then starts to struggle. But you just see brakes are overheating ever soon. Giovinazzi is out of the session, and we overtake quite a large number of cars.
Caution.
And that caution was for Giovinazzi. He put it into a wall. We didn't get a safety car.
Our gap to the car in front is 3 seconds.
But we join on lap 9, and you can see with all the pit stops done, we find ourselves back in P11, sitting again behind Grosjean and Ricciardo. So the pit stops really didn't do anything to help us out in track position. It sort of kept us where we are in a net P11, and now we're going to have to see if we can catch them through the race, and that is exactly why I start to take corners a little bit more wild as the wear on the tyres gives way a little bit, and I'm starting to press really hard, which means I go into corners a lot quicker, brake a lot later, and it doesn't really pay dividends on this lap, as we're about to see. As we come down into the back straight, we're not in the DRS range, and that is annoying, but Lucas Weber is absolutely miles away from us, so we've got nothing to worry about being challenged from behind, which is why we can go and press a little bit more in these laps. So 5 laps to go, and we're really just going to try and put the pressure on, as Ricciardo and Grosjean are still fighting away, and it's still Ricciardo out in front as Sainz has overtaken Weber behind us, but again, nothing really to worry about. So we go through, take that at some pace, but lose it in the exit of the corner, which means we really lose some valuable time.
Gap to teammate ahead is 1.6 seconds.
So 1.6 seconds behind Grosjean, who is in front of Ricciardo. We're 1.4 seconds behind Ricciardo as we drop the gears, drop into second a little bit too early, which means again we come in early on there, get our foot down, and then ease off, and then foot down again, as you can see how much we caught Ricciardo and Grosjean in that corner. As it's, again, we're messing around with the fuel mix and the ERS to try and give us as much pace as possible when we need it, as we drop the gears. Again, a little bit heavy, as we can see the back of Ricciardo's car. We're very keen to get on it and try and get the slipstream, but we're just too far away at the moment and can't do it. We drop the gears. We're starting to take this corner much better than we were earlier in the race, and look how close we are to Ricciardo now, and Grosjean is holding it up nicely for us and really making this a possible overtake. But again, we go just a bit wide. That lets the Australian get away from us, and that is the moment gone, I think, for a possible overtake. We'll have to see if we can catch them on this big right hand bend going down into the back straight. As Grosjean is doing a good job holding him up, really. I don't know if that's deliberate and helping to try and get us into the points positions, but Ricciardo is sticking with Grosjean as we come down, and we have closed the gap enough to get DRS, but we're gonna just catch. Oh, Ricciardo's gone for the move on Grosjean. He's going around the outside of him. Can he get past? Yes, he has, with the aid of DRS, and the DRS catches us up as well. We look for a dive bomb, but we're too quick into the corner. But we have caught Grosjean and Ricciardo up, and we're going to be pushing to try and get that 10th place spot as we come through. We brake late, take the corner quite well. Grosjean gets on the power. We run a little bit wide, get DRS again. As Grosjean, is he going to have a go back?
The ERS deployment, please. We need to charge the battery.
Is Grosjean going to have a go back at Ricciardo? No, he's not. He's right on his tail, and we are really closing the gap to both of them. They're fighting between themselves to let us back in. As again, we just take that corner a little bit too tight, but we go wide to try and then hit the apex, get our foot on the floor. And Grosjean just gets away. They're just
There's 3 laps of fuel remaining.
So much better on the power than I am on this course, and it's just, I really don't like China. I don't like all the big bends in it. It really does infuriates me with changing the gears, which obviously I'm doing manually. But we keep going through. We're going to try and keep some pace, a bit more pace than normal around this corner, which forces us wide, well off the apex. And then we have to drop the gears down into 4th to try and take a tight line. And then you've got a quick dropping of gears again over the grass. That's going to cost us time. And the more and more I push, the more and more Grosjean just seems to get away. Lucas Weber has overtaken Carlos Sainz again in P12, but is so far away from us again. We're not. I'm happy to push because I'm not worried about losing this P11. I'll try and give everything I've got to get a points position in P10, but maybe, just maybe,
expect to see some rain about 10 to 15 minutes from
this
now.
is going to be the first Grand Prix we don't get our points finish. But Jeff's predicting rain in 10 minutes time. There's only 3 laps left, so that's not going to affect us because we're doing lap times are around 1 minute 40, 1 minute 45, somewhere between there. So it's not the case. As this battle for 10th and 9th is absolutely brilliant, as Ricciardo and Grosjean going at it again. We'd look to see if we can get involved in it, but again, we're pushing too hard, forcing the car wide through the corners. But 1.2 seconds is the gap between us and Grosjean, so we've dropped out of DRS again, and that is not good. 4th, down to 3rd, down to 2nd as you try and take the tighter corners, and you can see I'm really not comfortable with that corner, and I would suggest that's where we lose most of our pace, as we come through the corner. Only one retirement in this Grand Prix so far, which is Giovinazzi. He put it into a wall actually just after that after the first corner. But yeah, the tight corners we seem to catch pace. The long bendy corners is where we seem to lose it. Maybe I've got the car set up incorrectly. I tried to go for a bit more downforce to help me through the corners, but it hasn't appeared to pay off. And again, we go with far too much pace into that right hand bend, and then you've got to really drop the gears. We've gone down to second to try and get us the high rev acceleration coming out of it. Third, we stalled in third for a bit too much, and that's not going to be helping the gearboxes. We're still even in low ERS as we try to charge it.
The car ahead is 1.5 seconds.
And you can see since we crossed the start-finish line, Grosjean has actually increased it by 0.3 of a second, his distance in front of us, so we're not going to have that DRS again. However, Lucas Weber is at 10.4 seconds behind us, so we literally don't have anything to worry about there. So let's keep pushing and see how we do. There's about 1.5 laps to go in the Grand Prix as we come down the long straight. Got to get on the brakes, maybe a little bit too early and a little bit too hard, which means we lose a little bit of valuable time. But even Ricciardo and Grosjean are
There's only 1 lap of fuel remaining.
starting to catch up on the cars in front, and we have 2 laps left with only 1 lap of fuel left, so we're going to have to drop it down to lean and stick it in lean for quite some time. As you can see there, that's what we're doing. We're going to have to rely on ERS to give us a boost for our pace and our acceleration, as annoyingly with 2 laps to go in the Grand Prix, we've just about mastered this corner, which is very annoying. As you get the foot on the pedal, go around the left hand bend as well, and then try and get on the pace. But look at Ricciardo and Grosjean, they've probably saved a lot of their fuel mix for these last 2 laps as well, because they know they're battling with each other, and they are actually catching, I think it's Sergio Perez racing point in front, or Perez and Devon Butler up there. So it looks like in our race for the rivals, it looks like we might be beating beating Weber, but losing out to teammate Roman Grosjean, which is a little bit annoying. But we come down through the right hand into the left hand turn again, dropping the gears, keep it in third this time, go wide again, and it's just not the best of cornering. I'm trying too hard to get pace into the car. There's up the front, I think it is still Lewis Hamilton leading the way. Now it's a 2.16 second gap to Grosjean, and we are just falling away. And I think the pit stop strategy of coming in early may have cost us. I think the tyre wear is all a bit too much now. I've used up too much fuel mix in the early stages of the Grand Prix trying to catch Grosjean, which has just meant we just haven't had enough opportunity to do it. As you can see, as I'm changing the ERS, it actually makes me drift a little bit across the course as we go a little bit later on the brakes, and that forces us wide away from the apex. But we can get our foot down and try and get through one more lap with limited fuel, relying on ERS. And look at how much pace we're taking into that corner there. We've got to come all the way through the cross section, cut back onto the track, and luckily
This is your final lap of the race.
it is very lucky that Weber and Sainz aren't anywhere close to us for this 11th position. Not that it really matters, there's no points for 11th obviously, but it's about reputation as well, about showing what we can do for Haas in this first season, and seeing if, well, we can become the first driver really. I think we've showed enough that we might be able to take the first driver position off Grosjean. We are playing second driver to him at the moment, but we need to make this count. So we've got ERS down to 0 and lean fuel mix on, trying to charge that ERS ready for the big long straight as we come through here, going into the long right hander where you can keep a bit of pace up. You just got to ease off the throttle for a little bit, get down, foot back on as we come into the corner where you have to drop a couple of gears. We go far too quickly into it, don't ease off the brakes, and then round the bend into third gear, hit the curb, try and hit another curb, go over the grass, because we're already losing this race, or losing the lap as much as we are. Now you should see us
Less than a lap of fuel now. The tank is empty.
in a minute crank up the RS for the back straight to give it all we've got, give it all the beans, and see what we can do as we come round the run. There we go, Lewis Hamilton wins the Grand Prix in China, he wins the Shanghai Grand Prix, and here we go, fuel mix back up to rich, overtake mode on for ERS. This is full beans, the only thing we're missing is DRS, and we're giving it all we've got into the last straight, round the corner for the tight right hander for the final time of the Grand Prix, as we take it very slowly, very easily, come down into the left hand corner, which you can take generally in fourth gear, cutting it. If you do, we go really heavily into it. It's going to be a dramatic finish as we come over the cut section, and there's the finish.
That's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Fermé.
So a bit of a neutral comment from Jeff. 11th place to finish. A little bit disappointing overall.
And Mercedes have pulled off a great victory here today. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
I'd say it was down once again to good, consistent driving, nailing the corners, working to the track conditions and perfecting the team's strategies. They got all of these things right today and the results speak for themselves.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot, a well-earned victory for Mercedes.
So it's becoming a familiar sight seeing Lewis at the top spot and Ferrari in the second and third places. Lewis Hamilton showing his dominance in the virtual world as well as the real world of F1 as well. A decent race, we just couldn't get the pace through the corners and that allowed Grosjean and Ricciardo to nick our points. Not too bad.
Let's have a quick look at how the drivers' standings have changed. It's a great result for Lewis Hamilton, who moves further ahead at the top of the table. Let's focus on the driver of the day, Anthony Davidson. Who do you pick?
Well, Crofty, Daniel Ricciardo would have to be my driver of the day. It's less about what he did right, but how little he did wrong. Perfect driving.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. No change in the top spot, but with today's points, their hold on the lead is getting weaker. After an event like that, who knows what the sport has in store for us next time? Be sure to join us again as we continue to bring you the latest excitement in Formula One.
So in the Constructors' standings, we are best of the rest behind the Red Bulls, the Ferraris and the Mercedes. You can see Giovinazzi there, the only did not finish. We are one place behind our rival Grosjean, but did beat our other rival Lucas Weber, which is good. We just need to try and keep up pace with the Racing Point and the Renaults. As we see a nice, lovely slow motion action shot, and then our weird finish crossing the line coming off the cut through area after we overran the corner. So the rivalry breakdown then, all of us finished the race, no podiums. We beat Weber and lost to Grosjean in our final position and keep our lead ahead of both of them, and we get a few more resource points as well for, yeah, a decent-ish enough race. Disappointing to miss out on the points, but you can't win them all, you can't get points in every race, and so far I'm just happy we've actually completed every race and haven't crashed out.
Looks like Lucas has also been invited to a historical event. This could be a good opportunity to play up your history with him for the press and expand your reputation.
So as I said, we're not doing the added events, but Carl isn't too happy. He's identified failings for the whole team, so not just us. The invitationals out went voying, and Devon Butler's being his cocky little self in interviews again, saying, you know, it's how things are going for you. Well, it's in the bag for sure. I came here to get points, and that's what I'm planning to do. And he's surprised at how well Daniel Ricciardo performed throughout the race today. Before today, I'd never really considered them a real threat in terms of rivalry, which is a bit of a cocky thing to say when you've just come up from F2. But let's move on to the next weekend. That will be the next Grand Prix. When we're back, it will be in Azerbaijan, in Baku, in a very, very tough race indeed. Look at that street circuit, nice tight bends, long straights, plenty of overtaking. See you then.